Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to the weekly Parsha Shir. This Shabbos, forthcoming Shabbos, is called Bamidbar. It's the beginning of the Book of Bamidbar, Numbers. It's called Numbers because it has a lot of counting in there of Jews, the amount of people in each tribe, and the flags, and so on. So it's called Bamidbar or Numbers. Sefer Hapekudim, the Gemara calls it. The Parsha starts off with HaShem telling Moshe, right after the Mishkan was built, to count the Jews. Count each and every one. Know exactly how many Jews there are. Those from 20 years till 60 years. And then divide them according to camps or flags, if you may. What happened was that the tribes were divided, 12 tribes. They traveled through the desert. They traveled in a formation around the ark. The Mishkan was built. They traveled around the Mishkan so that there were 3 tribes on the east, the south, west, and the north. In the east, it was Yehuda and Yisachar, Zvulun. The south had Reuven, Shimon, and Gad. The west had Binyamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh. And the north had Dan, Naphtali, and Asher. Okay. And then the Torah says to Moshe, go and count the Levi'im. The Levi'im were not considered as one of those tribes. Rather, they were encamped around the ark itself in the Mishkan to help work and serve in the Mishkan. And the Parsha ends with how they traveled, how when they took apart the Mishkan and how they clothed each part in a separate kind of cover, and they carried it until they reached the next point of camp, and then they reestablished the Mishkan. That's the Parsha in summation. And what does it have to do with us today, some 3,000 years later? Right? The Torah is eternal. So it has to have some kind of implication for us today too. Bamidbar, in the desert, which is where we are today. It's in exile. We have a problem. We're in a desert. We're not in a spiritual oasis. We're in a desert where things around us are not very calm. Things around us are not very stable. Yeah, they're not very stable. What we have is a world in tumult. Whether it's a war, as of today, Russia, Ukraine, whether it's Iran arming Syria and Iraq and Sudan and Yemen and who knows where else there's turmoil, whether you have turmoil from the environmentalists, whether you have turmoil from political, call it judicial reform in Israel, you name it, there's a crisis everywhere in the world, everywhere. We're in a desert. HaShem is unseen. We don't know where to turn. We face challenges. It's to religion, to life itself. Texas last week. They shot up another school or mall, whatever it was. And this goes on and on and on. HaShem tells Moshe, count us. Count because every Jew counts. Every Jew is important. We need every one of us. Don't say, I'm like this, I'm like that, I'm from this tribe, I believe in this, I have these ideologies, I have this, right? We're all diverse. There was Yehuda, Shimon, Binyamin, Dan. There are many different tribes. But everyone counts. Everyone with their views counts. Everyone is important. Number one. Number two, they were set out, the tribes spread out and divided into different groups, right? Some people are like-minded. Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, they were in the front, in Mizrach. But there was Reuven, Shimon, and Gad in the south, those in the north and the west. I'm an individual. I have my own ideas. But I'm pretty friendly with this group, or with that group, or with a different group, right? People get along with each other, or they can get along with each other. That's the key to it, right? We're in different camps, we live differently, we have different ideas, but we all can live together. Unity. That is the point. The Medrash speaks about the tribes. And he says, well, each tribe had its own flag. Yeah. It had its own flag. And they looked up, well, I'm from Yehuda, I'm from Naphtali, whatever. Right? The three tribes in the east were one way, three tribes in the south were another way, but they all had their own individual flags, and they all proudly pointed to what was going on. They all proudly pointed to my contribution to the Jewish nation. That's what's important, right? Am I contributing or am I hindering? That's the thing that we have to look at, and we have to look at it very closely, right? There's no room for play, right? If you're working in unity, you can march through the desert. They were 600,000 strong, guaranteed. Nobody was brazen enough, hey, I'm going to fight these guys. No, although they did have enemies. Later on we find Amalek, we find Sichon and Og, we find different opponents to the Jewish nation. But the fact is, they were always victorious. And you know why? Because they were united. That's what the Medrash teaches us. If we are smart enough to look for unity rather than strife, then there's no question that we'll be able to overcome all the difficulties that we face. So that even the Levi'im, who didn't want any part of the strife, they stayed away from all this kind of thing. Later on we find that they battled Moshe with Korach and all that. Yeah, you're always going to find something like that. You're always going to find some rotten apple in any bunch. You're going to find it. But the idea is that they strove for unity. They strove to be together. And when they were together, all their individuality shone. The Zohar speaks about Why the different colors? Each flag had a different color, so that people would look up and say, oh, that's my color flag. That's the one I want to be with. That's the one I am part of, right? Because when you put all the colors together, there was a rainbow, a colorful projection of what the Jewish nation could be. Not, God forbid, a rainbow the way it's presented today by some people who live outside the norms of nature, but a real, beautiful, wondrous, something like the Northern Lights, something like a spectrum that shines with all different colors. Take a look at a crystal chandelier, right? They're all the same kind of crystals, but when you light it up, there's green and yellow and red and purple and blue and who knows. Everyone is there. Everyone has what to contribute. Everyone has a gewaldige koyach, that's Yiddish, for a tremendous amount of strength and beauty to project for the Jewish nation. The lesson this week is to unite, right? Now the Shulchan Aruch says, if you take a look at the Jewish calendar, you'll find that Bamidbar, this week's Parsha, always comes out before Shavuot. Always, right? There are a couple of years in very spread out time element where Bamidbar could come out just after Shavuot, or it can come out 2 weeks before. Almost every year, you'll find that Bamidbar comes out before Shavuot. Why? Because Shavuot is the time for us to receive the Torah. Yeah. Every year we receive the Torah anew. Right? So the Gemara says, Shulchan Aruch quotes it, Manu v'otzro. Count, and then you can make Shavuos. Count, because you can't really appreciate the Torah unless we're all together. All right, there's some guys learning yeshiva, some guys go out to work, some, even me, maybe be, God forbid, criminals. We've got all sorts of people. But if we band together, we'll climb out of the morass. If we don't, we're all in trouble. If we want to receive the Torah, Shavuot is less than a week away, less than 10 days away. If we work on unity, then we'll receive the Torah for new. What happened in the Torah? God revealed himself. We're in a desert, but God could reveal himself. It's up to us. Have a great Shabbos and Kol Tov.